thinking is the skill everyone says you need. But let's be honest, do schools actually teach it? Or do we just talk about it? This is Group 1 presenting. Fashion in the year 2015 defines critical thinking as a purposeful self-regulatory judgment. It's the process of analyzing information, questioning assumptions, evaluating evidence, and explaining your reasoning. In short, it's how we move from just having opinions to forming justified beliefs. But if it's so important, why do so many students leave school without it? Here's the paradox. Universities, employers, even JHS textbooks all call critical thinking essential for the 21st century. We put in mission statements and course outlines. Yet, Paul and Elder in the year 2019 shows that most classrooms still reward passive memorization. How often do we ask students to think critically on exams, but spend every lesson telling them what to think? Isn't that contradiction the real reason students struggle when faced with real problems? So, my thesis is this. Naming critical thinking as a whole is meaningless without changing how we teach. What's the point of listing it as a learning outcome if we do not model it? If we truly want graduates who can reason, challenge ideas and solve problems, then we must embed direct instruction in analysis and argument into every subject from science to social studies. Otherwise, aren't we just setting students up to fail?
In 2023, the UNESCO has identified it as one of the foremost challenges in the modern education, while the OECD 2022 notes a growing gap between the university qualification and the actual analytical competencies the graduates possess. As automation displaces routine cognitive tasks, the critical thinking, encompassing problem-solving, analytical reasoning, and sound judgment has become the competency employers and policymakers most urgently demand. Scholars broadly agree that the critical thinking comprises three constituent elements: knowledge, cognitive skills, and dispositions. Yet despite over 4 decades of instruction, outcomes remain disappointing. Skoffer and Hernandez in 2026 argue that the fundamental problem lies in the traditional overemphasis on the skills at the expense of the motivational disposition that drive individuals to actually in critical reasoning, drawing on self-determination theory. Ryan and DC in 2000, they demonstrate that the intrinsic motivation deriving genuine satisfaction from the critical process itself produces far more durable intellectual engagement than external incentiveness or shame avoidance.
Education pays keynote to critical thinking. However, there is other aspects which prevent students thinking critically, such as rote learning, where students learning just to get marks, just to pass, without understanding exactly what a topic is. Another one is overloaded syllabus, where we have a long syllabus compared to how we learn. For example, 12 chapters where we have 1 class in a week, where lectures teach us 2 hours and then give us 10 minutes for question and answer. So, and the students were more than 400, can't manage for the 10 minutes, which also prevents us to think critically. Another point is fear to make mistakes. Yeah. Some students were shy, don't want to speak. We are just like that. Those also prevent us to make a mistake. Because we think when I think they laugh, when I do they laugh, that is also prevent us to mistake.
Daniel Kahneman also explained that human thinking operates through 2 systems. The first system, which is fast, automatic, and emotional, helps us to make quick judgments and decisions. Whilst the second system, which is slow, deliberate, and logical, is used for careful thinking and complex problem solving. Kahneman argued that many cognitive biases occur because the first system relies on mental shortcuts, while the second system often fails to question them. One example is confirmation bias, where people focus on information that supports their existing beliefs and ignore evidence that contradicts them. Also introduce the idea of what you see is all there is, which means people tend to assume that the information available to them is complete, leading to faulty conclusions. Kahneman believes that Although biases cannot be completely eliminated, they can be reduced by slowing down and engaging the system too to think more critically and consider alternative explanations.
Comes to the social barriers, you have rote learning. Ferrib in 1970 stated this as a banking education, where students deposit facts rather than cultivating critical consciousness.
Psychological refers to the mental process and the factors that affect a person's thinking. Barriers of psychological. First, we have confirmation bias. It is when a person tended to notice, believe, and remember information that they already think while ignoring information that challenge it. And the effects are on decision making and personal relationship. Secondly, we have donor closure. It is when a person with low skill ability overestimate their own, whilst a person with high skill ability understand their own. And the effects are poor decision making, resistance to feedback. Thirdly, we have heuristic, a mental shortcut that's used to solve decisions and problems quickly. And the effects are speeding, that is positive effect, and the negative effect is overconfidence. Lastly, we have emotional resonance, where a person treats his or her feelings as evidence of truth or facts, and the effects are on mental health, on behavior, and on body.
Formal education does not guarantee learning. The paradox of the educated non-thinkers, the credentialism versus the intellectual demand. So, formal education offering rewards memorization and credentialism seeking over genuine inquiry. The person can accumulate degree while never questioning their own assumptions. This is the educated non-thinker. Knowledgeable but not necessarily wise. So, credentialism values the certificate, while the intellectual humanity values the process of thinking itself. So the paradox is that the more educated someone becomes, the better they often get at defending existing beliefs rather than examining them.
Okay, what's the pathway forward? To improve critical thinking in society, society needs to reform its institutions. So therefore, educational institutions must move beyond traditional methods that focuses on memorization. Also, using psychiatric questioning can further strengthen critical thinking in the society.
Social reforms are also necessary to improve critical thinking. Society should promote open dialogue among individuals with different perspectives.
To conclude, the paradox of educated people failing to think critically reveals that knowledge alone is insufficient for rational judgment. Human beings are therefore naturally influenced by biases, traditions, emotions, and social conformity, which override logical reasoning. Scholars such as Daniel Kahneman in 2011 and John Dewey in 1933 suggest that critical thinking is a disciplined habit which must be intentionally cultivated. Society that wishes to promote development must therefore reform educational system and social institutions to encourage dialogue and independent thoughts. Thank you.